Alright, we have some stuff to talk about. This is the Last Coffee House. Eminem came out with a new album. It is called Kamikaze. Hopefully most of you know that by now. And I listened to the album. I've read an article about it, so this is mostly going to be about that article. The album itself, my brief thoughts on it. It's a return to form. Eminem, I remember I listened to it in the morning. My brother shot me a text, said just with the link, the Apple Music link to the album, and I downloaded it immediately. I was listening to it like 6 in the morning, and it was fantastic. I mean, there were the dull spots are like dull spots in, Slim Shady LP or Marshall Mathers LP. It was like just those mix it up album filler songs that weren't great. Otherwise, it's that return to form that some of the most incredible lyrical virtuosity I've heard, period. And it's not just like people don't understand this, aren't very well versed in this stuff. It's not just the double time and triple time flow and that, it's the structure, it's the use of syllables and the way that they fit together, and internal rhyming schemes and the switching up the rhyming schemes, switching up the flow patterns and the rhyming patterns and all that stuff. That's what's absolutely freaking incredible. Not only that, but there's a bunch of excellent punchlines on top of all that stuff. So anyway, whatever the case, whatever my thoughts on the album and the consensus on the album, this particular writer from the Hollywood Reporter, they call their article, Eminem's surprise album Kamikaze is an epic fail. Okay, so hopefully just a critic who knows rap, who just didn't like some aspect of it for whatever reason, and that's what it's going to be, right? Some objective analysis, or we live in 2018 in the United States, so let's see. Hollywood Reporter swords in Johnny Coleman. I just picture like 20-something, and I could be completely wrong, but like 20-something white guy who like goes and hangs out with his friends at a diner and they sit around talking about feminism. I don't know. That's what I picture, but who knows. So this is, so much of this article is about just SJW nonsense. It's evaluating this album on terms of this nonsense. And it's hilarious because it starts out first with shaming him based on his age. It starts out on that. Calls him an aging artist trying and failing to remain relevant. Mentions his age. Eminem is 45. Says he's a confused middle-aged Marshall Mathers. His lyrics or songs or whatever are a decade past their expiration date. And it's a big old, emphasize the word old, bummer. So all these things, just at least get it straight. If you're going to be like that, if you're going to be that annoying person, at least be consistent across the board. Don't go shaming people because of their age if you're going to talk about all the other stuff, all the gender and race stuff thereafter. Speaking of, one of the quotes, great white hopes appropriating a black cultural form. So the writer is talking about Elvis and Eminem appropriating a black cultural form. I think cultural appropriation in general, the concept is just nonsense. It's like by virtue of your skin color, you get to claim vicarious authorship of some cultural artifact. Not some cultural artifact, but all cultural artifacts that happen to be part of people who happen to share your skin color. In itself, it's a little, not just a little, it's a lot ridiculous because it's saying that I can group this certain amount of people, these certain people on the basis of their color, and say that they are assumed to have an attachment to certain cultural all the cultural things just because of their skin color, and that they have some kind of an interest and an attachment to oh my god, how do they not see that this is simply grouping people on the basis of race and making generalizations on that basis? Just having a concept of cultural appropriation. Oh, I can't stand this. It's just the inverse of racial purists. People are saying that no, you can't mix the races. Let's keep them all separate and pure. It's just the inverse of that. It's just saying that no, we have to keep it pure, and that's so important to keep everybody separate. What the hell are you talking about? So this article, it's going down the line. It's checking off all these things. It talks about, criticizes some, what was it criticizing? Oh, so it was talking about Stepping Stone and saying how this was he had good intentions behind this, but it runs counter to the violent, toxic, macho nonsense coursing through the rest of the record. What? Okay. Violent, toxic, macho nonsense. So, and I don't understand how these things intermingle, because would this writer then criticize this black cultural form, rap music, in general for violent, toxic, macho nonsense? Because he's using it here to say that Eminem, oh, well, even though this song is alright, all the rest of it is toxic, macho nonsense. So would you criticize black culture? Since you're just saying that this is a chunk of black culture, would you criticize black culture on the basis of using the violent, toxic, macho nonsense, and say just that this is a bad part of black culture that should be excised or changed? I don't know what the heck they would say. But then this writer goes on even more, and I love how, like, the use of certain words pollutes all of the rest of the record. So it's, if you use certain words that aren't PC, then all of the rest of the record is bad. It's not look at each one on its own merits, but it's just fruit of the poisonous tree if he uses these words. For instance, he says in the first one, he says he's about to rape the alphabet. And then, the author says, this kind of shock, whatever, gets old real fast. That's, real's an adjective. It's not an adverb. Really's the adverb. So at least write properly. Like, that one's not even hard. It's anyway, so it's because he used the word rape in any context, then it's a problem. Even if it's letters, it's not men or women. It's just letters. But yeah, that's a problem. So, like I said, it pollutes all the rest of it. Justin Vernon, who was part of one of the songs, "Fall," he disavowed his part in that song because Eminem uses the F word. That F word, not the other F word that everybody's fine with. That he can use all he wants. The other F word that's a derogatory term for homosexuals. And I don't want to say that because I think I marked this as clean. I try to be clean in all my episodes of these things, so I'm not going to say that kind of a word, but neither did Eminem. He didn't want to. In the actual song, he bleeps out, or he censors the word, the F word, when he's using it in this bar. Not only that, but it's actually freaking genius. So he's criticizing Tyler, the Creator. He's throwing some shade at Tyler, the Creator. He says, what's the bars are the lines? Tyler, create nothing. I see why you called yourself a F word, B word. It's not just because you lack attention, it's because you worship D12's balls. You're sacrilegious. And I think I remember that line. I think Eminem said that line before, sacrilegious, but I don't know if he's used it in this particular context before. I know I've heard it before somewhere. So he said, I see why you called yourself F word. He even puts himself at a distance based on that, because Tyler, the Creator did a whole bunch of times, throughout one of his albums. And I actually like Tyler, the Creator. I think he's pretty creative. Funny thing. But in one of his albums, he uses that word over and over and over again. He had an interview where he talked about how that word's fine and you can use it, and anybody can use it, even people who aren't gay. You can use it all you want. There's no problem with it. And he kind of used it in the context of, because it was a little minced, like it was a little wonky, because the way he kind of said it was that you don't use it in a way that's referencing people who are gay. Later, he uses it a whole bunch in that way. He wanted to just mean lame, or he's saying it just means something like lame. And I was just listening, what song was I listening to? Marshall Mathers? I'm just Marshall Mathers, just a regular guy. Don't know why all the fuss about me. Yeah, I was just listening to that in the car, actually. And, he says that word 100 times, and that's he just goes off and off of it. But anyway, so Tyler, the Creator, uses it, calls himself it, calls other people it, uses it in both ways to just mean lame and to be a reference to people who are gay. And here Eminem's saying, I see why you called yourself a F word. It's not just because you lack attention. He's saying that you're using it to get attention. That's the purpose of you using it. But Eminem actually censors out this word for the first time ever. The only other time I know that he censored something. Oh, there was another time too. There was one where he mentions Hillary Clinton, how he's going to blow up the Oval Office, and they censored that out on the Marshall Mathers LP. And then he censored out for the Compton soundtrack, one of the firest freaking verses I've ever heard in my life. But he says the word rape in that, and he censors that out. The line was crazy. I understand what you can't really say what he says in that song, so it kind of makes sense. But anyway, so he censors it out here. He's specifically saying, look, you don't get to decide which words are okay and which words aren't. I don't think this word's okay anymore, so I'm going to censor it out, even though you call it to yourself just to get attention. I'm not using it here to get attention, because I censored it out. You see? So it's complex stuff. It's in this bar is built a whole bunch of different layers of stuff. And anyway, it's like, okay, but again, it's a matter of having said that censored word one time pollutes the rest of it because you're not exhibiting correct think. You're not doing it right. So whatever. The author goes on to say, this is a long-ish quote. Mather's style has always been somewhere in the blunted fog of horrorcore, where shock is valued above all, and Mather's dials the cartoonish and dark elements to different levels. Completely disagree with that. It has been lyrical virtuosity above all, and the shock stuff secondarily, especially on this album. He has very little, which one was it? Like where he has 3 a.m. and all those ones where it's about shock. This one is not. This one is about saying some real stuff about real things in incredible ways and being incredibly creative in doing it. It's not about the shock and the horror core, whatever you want to call it. But here, this just feels like retread, is what the author says. Even when he's trying to be woke by criticizing Trump. Now, do you see this? So it's not, okay, I'm gonna judge the merits. And this is the big idea about this whole thing, is that Eminem is fighting for meritocracy. He's fighting for the idea that you should be lauded for being good at something. And this article is explicitly, and much of the frickin' country, I'd say like half of the frickin' country, is explicitly going against that, saying, no, it's not about merit. It's about identity. It's about historical wrongs. It's about associations. That's what it's about. It's not about ability. It's not about being able to demonstrate yourself or the American dream or anything like that. It's about your identity. And that's what Eminem's fighting against, whether he realizes it or not, and much of that you can understand that he's saying he's the best, and that's clear, fine, but I don't know if he really sees it as this dichotomy of people saying that there's merit on one side and there's not merit in something else on the other. So that's what this is all about. But in this sentence, this writer is saying, even when he's trying to be woke by criticizing Trump, so this is something that the writer would approve of, that he can criticize Trump. This would have made me happy if he was just criticizing Trump. It falls flat partly because he uses slurs like retarded. On this record, in the same way Trump weaponizes casual hate, and I don't know what the hell that means. Weaponizes casual hate? He weaponizes it. So he's making bullets out of it? I don't know what on earth that means. Casual hate? Who most casually hates right now? Is it really Donald Trump? Or is it the left talking about Donald Trump and anybody who supports him? Is that not the more conspicuous and cumulative casual hate out there? I don't understand what weaponizes mean. I don't know what the hell you're talking about, but whatever the case, it's the use of this word now from somewhere else nullifies this thing that this author would have approved as correct speak and correct think by criticizing Trump. And they say, this isn't resistance music, this is music for Trump's America. He's reinforcing the most traditional white man. I can't even fathom that there is a human being on this planet, especially within these borders of the United States, that can write such incredibly stupid things. So this isn't resistance music, this is music for Trump's America. What is Trump's America? How is this music for Trump's America? Is it literally all the things like being able to use the word retarded? Is that what Trump's America is about? I don't like that word. I don't like using that word because I've worked a lot with people who have psychological disabilities all over the place, and mental disabilities and physical disabilities. That's something I did a lot in law school and something I still work with today. So I don't like that word. I don't use it, especially in any kind of company that isn't apparently the internet where I'm talking about these very serious topics. But whatever the case, like, that doesn't impact the merit of what's going on here, of whether this is good or not. That doesn't have anything to do with it. And whether this is music for Trump's America or not, it doesn't have anything to do with it. Whether it's good or not, whether it's artistically valuable or not. It's shocking. And this part, this just is what makes my head explode. He's reinforcing the most traditional white male American tropes. What the hell is a white male American trope? Which are those? When did all the white males get affixed to whichever tropes, American tropes, or however you want to package them? When did they get affixed with all those and say that you can generalize about white males, about a race and a gender, just like that? They all get this particular characteristic. Which are those? Being able to use the word retarded, using the F word, what else? What else is just part of the white male American trope that is just affixed to all white males, no matter what they do or who they are or what their lives are like, what their past is like, or their personal responsibility has nothing to do with any of that. Let's just say that because of their skin color and because of their gender, they are affixed with these things. I don't understand how people can be so internally inconsistent. And that's why in the attention economy, that's what we're in now, the attention economy. That's why I think people radicalize their own views so that they can get views. I think that's what the point is. And I don't think people even recognize it in a lot of cases. They just do it automatically as a survival mechanism because they know that they're going to get more views because people are such idiots. They don't have the slightest clue why they want to do whatever they want to do at any given time. So it's just like they just keep rationalizing to themselves, no, this is correct. This is correct because Trump is evil. Trump is a fascist. Trump is a Nazi, all that other stuff. So therefore, it's okay. So therefore, it's just incidentally, I'm going to get more views and people ranting about me and reading it and all that stuff. Because if you're reasonable out in the public sphere right now, you're not getting clicks because people don't get to get outraged at it. It doesn't elicit. There's not that call to action for them yelling about it or sharing it wherever. So I really think that the attention economy radicalizes people, radicalizes views, whether they're aware of it or not, or acknowledge it or not. And I just, oh my God, like the shock value in this is like 2% of this particular album. It's so little in this. I mean, like I can't even think of any shock stuff. Like there's some of the relationship related ones where not great stuff is going on. I think he took a Louisville slugger to a girl's head. That's shocking. But other than that, there's not much of anything. But this particular author is just saying that you have to check off. You have to be woke. That's what you have to do. It's not about the lyrical skill, creativity, or the music. It's about being woke, having right think. That's what you have to have in order to be valued in this particular area. That's how your art is valued. You have to have right think. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, even later, the author says he was momentarily relevant again after the BET freestyle. So when he was exhibiting right think, that's when he was relevant. Had nothing to do with his skill or his artistic value or anything like that. He was exhibiting the right think and therefore he was relevant. Can't even believe an adult talks like this. I would not be surprised if this is some 12-year-old writing this nonsense and just say, no, well, but this. And they once they breach 18, you know, or get to, and they can drink and smoke, it's like, and then rent a car at 25. It's like, without paying extra or whatever the heck you do. Once they hit all those milestones, then finally they'll start to say, oh, you know what? It shouldn't be about this. It really shouldn't be about just, you have to think along my lines, and that's what your art is valued at, whether you think properly. Okay, so I've got another quote here. Being hated seems like a running goal throughout Mather's career. He's like an enfant terrible who conflates negative attention with acclaim, which aligns him with other seemingly lost middle-aged man-children provocateurs like Louis C.K. I don't even know what the hell you're talking about. So obviously, Marshall Mathers, Eminem, has been loved through the vast majority of his career. The hate that he's garnered, the most hate he garnered was for Revival. That's because a lot of people didn't like that album. He hasn't been courting hate. He's been courting controversy, and it's always been a cheeky, funny thing so that he could sell more records, and it's worked beautifully for a long time. And he got a hell of a lot of acclaim throughout the vast majority of his career. So I don't know what you're talking about, but more importantly even, which aligns him with other seemingly lost middle-aged man-children provocateurs like Louis C.K. What are you talking about? Louis C.K. was one of the most incredible comedians to ever grace us with his presence. What about him has been just a provocateur rather than a comedian? Where does that line come out? I mean, the only negative things that I've heard about Louis C.K., they're not even related to his comedic acts or anything like that. It's the whole jerking off thing. That's what has been the big issue. So was that a provocation that he's trying to get more attention from? I don't know what you're talking about. But this is genuinely one of the dumber people that I have ever encountered. I'm shocked. I'm shocked that they can string a sentence together, let alone write a whole piece about this kind of nonsense. So finally, after all of that, we get to some kind of technical assessment where they talk. So they talk about his rapping, but it still feels like someone doing the same magic tricks to diminishing effects with the same old cadences, rolling out the double time gimmickry to a world that has essentially moved on, end quote. What the hell are you talking about? This is somebody who doesn't know anything about rap, period. Eminem, specifically on this album, did everything that any person who has an interest in rap looks for in lyrics, period. It was the most most complete rhyme schemes, the most creativity when it comes to flow and changing up rhyme patterns, etc., etc. These are all the things that you can do with rap. He does all of those things. It's not the same old cadences. It's not the same old patterns. He specifically mimics mumble rappers' patterns and flows and rhyme schemes to make fun of them. He does this in the middle of other verses that he's put together. Not only that, but he's hitting punchlines all over the place. They're incredibly complex lines that you have to listen to 10 times and you'll still be getting more stuff out of it. This is the pinnacle of everything that lyricism can be. And it's shocking to me that somebody could say this. I mean, it's like I said, it's not even the double time, even though that's amazing because the way that the syllables fit together like a puzzle, that they can fit together so perfectly on a beat and go for so long, that's so difficult to do. But beyond that, it's the content, it's the way they're structured, it's everything about the way these things are put together that is so much more than what anybody else can do in this genre. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's like talking about Van Gogh and saying that, oh my god, he's just using paint. It's the same old paint that he's using to make his painting. It's like, what are you talking about? This is the medium. Why is he using a canvas? This is ridiculous. Why doesn't he paint it on the side of a bus or something? It's like, oh my god, why doesn't he paint it on the wind? That would be so much more interesting. This is, So this is a quote, the technicalities of his rapping style, which is what made him famous in the first place, fundamentally don't matter in 2018, end quote. Fundamentally don't matter. So the technicalities of the rapping style fundamentally don't matter in 2018. That says it very clearly, that it's not about ability. It's not about merit. It's about being part of the tribe. It's about being woke. It's about being PC and sufficiently demonstrating your virtue. And that's what gets you artistic merit. What kind of nonsense is this? What kind of crazy backwards world is this? It's absolutely shocking. I grew up my entire life as a Democrat, that's what I was. Out of the womb, I was espousing this stuff and talking about FDR and Kennedy and the like. And yet, we get to this point. It's gone off the absolute deep end, and so many people have been concerned about this, but I don't know that people are looking at this closely enough to see just how internally nonsensical and inconsistent this stuff is. Not just that it's ridiculous and will lead to horrible things down the line, but that it doesn't even understand its own place. That it's eating its Ouroboros, it's eating itself. Quote, it's odd but telling that Mathers chose to reference the Beastie Boys' License to Ill for the album cover. That Beastie's record was notable for its brazen stupidity and chauvinism. Look at that, by association. I've taken the things not just from what you've said and you've done, not just from within a given track, but anywhere on your record and anywhere in your past. But I'm taking things from somebody that you vaguely reference. Why would he obviously he's references the golden age of rap. That's the point. But I'm taking something from somebody who you vaguely reference and what they did decades ago, and I'm using that to attack you. I mean, my God, how does this happen? How do people's brains get so... is just Trump derangement syndrome? Is this a symptom of that? Good God. So anyway, alright, so analysis. I'm going to try to have a little humility here. I genuinely can't believe that an adult Homo sapien, primates though we may be, and the indelible stamp of our lowly origins, though prominent it may be, I cannot believe that a Homo sapien is capable of thinking this way or writing this stuff. I hold out to just hope against hope that they don't actually believe this stuff, that they think it's nonsense, but they're writing it so they can get paid. It's dishonest, but you gotta make your money somewhere, and at least they're not actually drinking this Kool-Aid. So the whole point of this whole piece, and I'd be perfectly fine, if they want to criticize an artistic work on the merits of the artistic work and just say that it's not good because of X, the cinematography is not good, I didn't enjoy this hook or that hook, and that's the basis of their criticism. If they only stuck to that, then fine. I disagree with you, but fine. But when it's about this, it's really just about exhibiting wrongthink. It's wrong speak. That's what it's doing. It's 1984. It's fascistic nonsense that says that if you do these things in the wrong way, then you should be excluded from the conversation. Your value goes down. Your art doesn't mean anything. You don't get judged on the merit of what you do. And it's so less clear when it it comes to things like art, when you're judging a movie or music or something like that. But if somebody were, say, fantastic at tennis or something, and they're just really good at tennis, but they espoused wrongthink, and you say, you're not a good tennis player because of your wrongthink. You use the word rape, so therefore, you're a bad tennis player. When you put it in those terms, it makes absolute sense why that's complete nonsense. But when it comes to art, it's more, it's more up in the air, subjective or whatever. It's not even that subjective. Like, there are many more things that, like, we can find ways to find objective value in different mediums of art where we could say that, okay, within this range, this is what's valuable in this art medium. But anyway, like, if you put it in terms of tennis, then it makes perfect sense that you don't just get to say that you exhibited wrongthink, therefore your art bad. Even just the structure of this piece was, okay, go through all your exhibitions of wrongthink for a lengthy period of time, and then I'll talk about some actual technical criticisms that I have. Why on earth should it be in that order? Holy hell. So, okay, again, humility, Labbit. So let's talk about my limitations. I don't have many limitations in this area. I'm rather well versed in rap in general and Eminem in particular when it comes to understanding lyrics and structure and flow and all that sort of stuff. I grew up on this stuff. I've been listening to it for like 30 years now. In the womb, I was listening to this stuff. I have followed it for a long time, and Eminem, I've listened to everything he's done. There are a couple of songs here and there, mixtapes or whatever, that I might have missed, maybe a couple of features, but otherwise, I've listened to virtually all his stuff. And when it comes to other rappers, I mean, yeah, exhaustively. So my limitations in this area are very minimal. And not only that, but this is simply about the relative value of, lyrical styles and rap music and how valuable it is. And here we've got the dichotomy of merit versus identity, politics, virtue signaling nonsense. So it's not very complicated. It comes to the anchor. It's not a very complex issue, so the anchor is not going to be very heavy. But just to be safe, I'll make it 200 pounds. So that's 200 out of a ton. And that's how heavy the anchor is. That's weighing down on my confidence in my whatever views I've espoused in this particular episode. So not very heavy. Bias, what kind of bias? I grew up on Eminem, like I said, so I could have a strong bias to defend Eminem, although, I was pretty critical of Revival as well. Sorry, Em. You can shout me out on your next track. There was good stuff on there, especially lyrically. There's some amazing stuff that he did, like what was it? I'm giving him pounds, I'm upscale now, must mean I'm way in the sky. So it's like all those extra stuff. And I definitely value merit over everything, ability over everything. You have to demonstrate that you're good at something before you can be perceived to be good at that thing. And I definitely take lyrical virtuosity, flow, creativity, and punchlines. That's what's important over virtually anything else. The music and the hook, they have to be good enough that they're not distracting. Can be great, but usually I'm looking primarily, so it could be a bias, I'm looking primarily at the lyrics, at the flow, at the creativity, and the punchlines. That's what I'm looking at. So that could be a bias that could be impacting my ability to look at this subjectively. So anyway, so that's what I'm looking at. Eminem, thank you, Marshall Mathers. Thank you, Slim Shady, for bringing this out and returning, trying to fight for the meritocracy, because that, especially as long as we are competing with other countries, we're competing with whoever else, so we have to worry about that kind of stuff. I know everybody here now has it so nice, whereas in many other countries throughout history, other countries now and throughout history, they would have been worried about being murdered for being gay, but now they have the time and the ability, and they don't have to worry about killing what they eat and all that sort of stuff. So we can complain about all this. But anyway, so that's just thank you, Slim Shady, for this. Thank you for fighting for the meritocracy, whether you're doing that explicitly or not. And I hope that we can support this. The idea that that their skill should be what separates them from other people, not their identity. That we should be individually assessed and not judged on the basis of whatever you happen to be born with. Oh, I cannot believe you have to say that in 2018. Where are you, Dr. King? Thank you, Slim Shady. All right. Anyway, so that's this one. I hope the vitriol wasn't overabounding. I definitely felt it. Eminem, Kamikaze. If you haven't heard it, go listen to it. Exhibit your outrage if you feel outrage, or talk about how incredible it is if you feel that way. So thank you again.